All right, I'm going to go ahead and kick off. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm going to start sharing my screen now. This webinar is recorded, so you'll be able to access the recording in the follow-up after if you would like to share with any of your colleagues or anyone else in your organization or outside of your organization that you think might find this useful as well. Okay, let's go ahead and share. All right. So thank you again for joining us today. We're going to be presenting today on HubSpot and NetSuite integrations. So we're going to be talking about how to integrate the two systems together and sort of get the best of both worlds from that particular integration. So our agenda for today is, firstly, we'll do a quick introduction to the people on the call today. We will talk shortly about the benefits of using HubSpot and NetSuite together. We'll go into some details about completing a successful integration. And then we have closing statements and a special offer for everyone who is joining us today or who has registered and is going to be accessing the recording. So let's, sorry about that. Let's jump right in. So we do have two on the call today. Myself, my name is Erica. I am the marketing manager of HubSpot at Flawless Inbound. So I will be presenting from the HubSpot side and the integration side. And I also have Perry joining me on the call. He's the director of NetSuite services at GSI, and will be answering any questions from the NetSuite side that you have as we go. So, quick introduction to who we are. We are GSI and Flawless Inbound, or Flawless Inbound powered by GSI. We are a HubSpot Diamond Solutions partner. We're advanced implementation certified with 60 plus certifications throughout our team, and we have completed more than 250 implementations of HubSpot, many of those including integrations for our clients. And also GSI, our parent company, is a Oracle Platinum partner and full NetSuite solutions provider, offering NetSuite implementation and Suite Care, which is the #1 rated NetSuite support team on G2. Something that makes us as a whole very unique is that we don't just offer HubSpot or NetSuite, we offer both. So if you need an integration, not only are we able to do the technical development of the integrations, but we are able to help with the systems on both sides of that integration and able to sort of provide you with the services for the post-integration maintenance and everything, the pre-integration consultations, all of that for both systems. And we work together every day. And we are really happy to be able to bring you this presentation today with our bit of unique expertise. So let's start with the benefits of using HubSpot and NetSuite together. So we all know that customer journeys are becoming increasingly complex, right? Customers want to see their journey throughout, from marketing to sales to customer service. They want everything to be aligned, right? So at Flawless and GSI, we're huge proponents of sales and marketing alignment, just aligning your teams around shared goals and processes to ensure the consistency of your customer journey. And technology, it can be a huge help to this alignment. But if your technology is cobbled together, if they're sharing data ineffectively, this isn't going to help with your customer journey. It's going to hinder it. So when you don't have connected technology, you can see silos forming between your teams. Maybe your marketing team uses HubSpot, your sales team uses NetSuite. You're going to see a silo between them and they're unable to align and work together. You're going to get a clunky user experience. It means people have to share data manually. And that makes that technology harder to adopt. Maybe for team members who are struggling to adopt the platforms in the first place, having to do a bunch of manual work is going to make that even harder. And then lastly, you're going to have an inflexible tech stack, which makes it harder to adapt. When you need to make changes to something in one system, if you don't have those properly integrated, you're going to see the two systems struggling to share data, struggling to share updates. And that means that you can't make big changes without having to go through a whole process of changing both systems and aligning them together. And also for the leaders on the call, when you don't have connected systems, data isn't effectively shared across platforms. That makes it difficult for leaders to get accurate information on the success of their processes and their teams, and leads to your customers feeling frustrated by the lack of consistency that they might be getting from marketing to sales to finance to customer service and beyond. So the number one way to avoid issues like this is to just have one system, right? But we all know that it's not necessarily realistic to have a single system when you have to perform a lot of complex actions in your business process. So that's when it becomes important to integrate. And we can see by studies, and this isn't the only study that shows this, but companies who integrate their CRM with their ERP, so their HubSpot with their NetSuite, can see an average increase in revenue of 35%, that's extremely significant, and a decrease of 23% in operational costs, as well as a 10% reduction in manual errors, which is something that we see a lot when we have two systems that are manually sharing data, that you get those errors, and those errors might be what's leading to the operational costs increasing and the lack of revenue potential from there as well. So HubSpot and NetSuite are two of the leading CRM and ERP softwares, respectively. Both systems offer a wide variety of industry-leading tools and functions that allow users to maximize their platform ROI and deliver exceptional customer service. Together, HubSpot and NetSuite give your team the ability to streamline your customer journey, centralize your reporting and analytics, and ensure your entire team stays aligned and focused. So it looks like, just based on looking at the registration for this call, we have about 50% of the people who registered already have HubSpot, and about 50% of the people already have NetSuite. Now, some of you might have both. Some of you might have only one of those things and are thinking of adding the other one to your tech stack. But whatever the case is, you have definitely come to the right webinar, because you have both a HubSpot implementation expert team and a NetSuite implementation expert team here, as well as a very skilled integration team. So you're in the right place no matter what systems you're currently using and which ones you're looking to add. So let's jump in then to the steps to a successful integration. We're going to actually start off in the choosing phase. So the first thing you need to do before you even start planning your integration is know which type of integration you're going to use. So there are three main types of integrations that are available from HubSpot to NetSuite and back. And that's data sync, or the native integration. There's middleware, or there's a custom integration. And I'll talk more about OpsHub shortly. But basically, data sync, which is shown in the little screenshot on the bottom here, this is an example of a Pipedrive integration, but it looks the same for NetSuite as well, is the native or default HubSpot NetSuite integration that comes as a like HubSpot app that you can just get off of the marketplace. So this connection does not require a developer to program. You just need someone with access to both systems who understands the fields and the properties that you have. The data sync integration works really well for companies who have really simple integration requirements and who only need to sync basic information. Now, something important about the native or data sync integration is that it is limited to HubSpot's default properties. So that means if you've created custom properties, custom fields in NetSuite to track your information, and in our experience, the vast majority of companies have created those custom fields that they need to use to report to their leadership, that you won't be able to sync that in this type. You can only sync the sort of properties that come with HubSpot to the whichever property in NetSuite you choose that aligns to that property. There are some other limitations to the data sync as well, including some limits on how you can sync drop-down or multi-select fields. It's mostly limited to text entry or single option fields. So there are some limitations there, but it is a good place to start if you're not sure how you want to sort of set up your sync or how you're going to use it or if it's going to work for you. Sometimes the data sync can be a good place to start, just syncing things like company owner or deal value, things like that. The second option is using a middleware. So that's a third-party software built specifically to connect your systems. Middleware means you're able to perform more complex actions than the native or data sync integration, while most likely not requiring the use of a developer, although in some cases there is still some custom work to be done. Zapier is probably the most famous middleware that is out there, but we work with Verify, who's also a partner of ours. There's Unito, Syncari, a bunch of different middlewares that are commonly used for this type of integration. And if you're going to use a middleware, it's important to note that customization limitations of that middleware. So just like the data sync, there might be limits on what the connector can do, what types of fields can sync. So it's important to be aware of that before you purchase that third-party software. And also it does mean, of course, adding another platform to your tech stack that you need to train your team on, that you need to learn to maintain, and all of those things. So that's something to be aware of as well. The third option is custom integration, which means using a developer resource to custom code your integration to allow for data syncing actions which are not available natively or via a middleware connector. So for companies with unique or complex business processes, and for those with customized HubSpot or NetSuite environments, not just using the blank defaults, this is often the best fit. It does, though, require a developer. And you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, a screenshot of what a custom code integration might look like in the workflows tool in HubSpot. So the custom integration with HubSpot and NetSuite requires Ops Hub, which is what I've written here. Ops Hub stands for Operations Hub in HubSpot and is basically an add-on to your HubSpot environment that allows you to create custom actions, custom syncing actions, custom behavior actions via workflows. There's a little bit more that Ops Hub can do in terms of custom calculations in your HubSpot environment. It's not really related to integrations, but if you're interested in more information about Ops Hub at all, including any pricing or anything like that, please let us know after the presentation. We're happy to help out with providing more information on that. And yeah, the most important thing to know about custom integration is that it does require more advanced planning than any of the other types. You need to really be sure about what you're syncing. And then it also requires, of course, that developer resource or someone who's able to not only program, but maintain the code that you have written in order to sync those things up. So after you've chosen your integration, there are 5 steps to preparing for that integration. So the first one is process and alignment. The very first thing you need to do before you start an integration is have a documented process that your entire team, that's users of both systems, are aligned around. You need to know exactly what happens when a contact or a lead comes into your system. Where do they go? What happens to them? Who owns them? Who updates them? When did they move stages? When did they move owners? All of that needs to be documented so that you can make sure that when you're programming the integration points, they fit into that flow and everyone understands what they're supposed to be doing and when. The second thing is your custom properties. Properties in HubSpot sync to fields in NetSuite. That's how data is shared. So it's absolutely critical that before you start throwing integrations together, you determine which properties and fields you are using and how you're using them in your process. So do you have a field created in HubSpot for, let's say, industry, where you're tracking the industry of your leads or customers? If you've done that, do you have an aligned field in NetSuite that has the same information? And are you going to use that in your marketing process, your sales process, your finance process? Like, how are you going to use that? And where are you going to report on it? All of that needs to be determined. And those properties need to be created in both systems so that they're ready to be integrated when the time comes. Lifecycle stages. So a really important thing to consider when working with integrated systems is the lifecycle stages. This is kind of like process and alignment, but it's more specific to your specific customers, not what your team is doing. So you need to know where in the buyer's journey your customers are moving across systems. So at what point in their life cycle stage? Is it when they're a lead? Is it when they're a deal? Is it when they're a one deal? Is it when they're a customer? Are they moving from HubSpot to NetSuite? Or is information moving from HubSpot to NetSuite about them? And where in that process is information going to move back from NetSuite to HubSpot? And when say a deal is going to get created, like you need to know exactly where in your process or in your lifecycle stage those things are going to happen. That's going to be important not only for setting up your data mapping, which I'll get to in a moment, but also for tracking when you're troubleshooting. So to know, okay, this customer is saying this is going wrong and this is going wrong. So they're at this particular stage. So now we can look at that stage, what's supposed to be happening in the integration during that stage, and understand what might you need to troubleshoot, what piece of code, what piece of the native integration you might need to look at to understand that. The next thing is pipeline stages or deal stages. So if you're using HubSpot for sales, make sure that you have determined your pipeline or deal stages and have them properly programmed with any associated automation before you start integrating those stages to NetSuite. This is how you're going to connect to your opportunities or the deals in NetSuite, and you should have programmed that system with these same stages. Naming is important for the team who's going to be maintaining the integration. So it might seem like it's not a big deal to call the first stage connect call in HubSpot and discovery call in NetSuite, but if you want to future-proof your integration, you have to make sure that you have those things aligned and set at the same name, because it will cause confusion going forward if it's not. And lastly is your source of truth. You need to make a decision before you start on which system is the source of truth if conflicting information exists. Will one system override the other one? So will something entered in HubSpot override existing information in NetSuite? Or will an update in NetSuite override information that was previously entered in HubSpot? It needs to be agreed on by all teams who are going to be using the integration before you begin integrating where your source of truth lies. And sometimes this isn't a one-time answer. Sometimes it's not just this is the source, HubSpot is the source of truth. Sometimes it's HubSpot is the source of truth for contacts, but NetSuite is the source of truth for deals. And you need to understand that so that when you're creating your custom integration, you can set up those functions in the code that say, okay, if this is a deal, then take the information from NetSuite. So all those if-then fields are going to be dependent on knowing your source of truth. So the next thing is planning for your integration. So no matter which integration method you choose, taking the proper steps before you get started is going to ensure the success of the final integrated system. So the first one is to understand your software limitations. So you are going to have specific limitations based on your license level in HubSpot or NetSuite, based on which hubs you have, based on which NetSuite functions you have, how much you've customized the system. So knowing where you have limits is important. And while these are both very, very sort of advanced feature-rich softwares, they do still have limits of things that can and cannot be done, especially when it comes to license level, like I said. So knowing where the platforms might have limits, where you need a specific license to do something before you get started is going to help with the planning in the end. Second thing is to create a data mapping document. And this is a very small image, but you can see a larger one in our integrations ebook, which we will send following this presentation as well. So a data mapping document is basically a document where you take all of the properties that you have in HubSpot and NetSuite, and you line them up to understand which ones are going to sync to which ones. And now, like I said, naming is important. So you want to have the names be the same, but on occasion, there are, default properties where you can't change the name of it, like the ID. HubSpot might call it deal ID. NetSuite might call it like deal identification. Like you might not be able to change those things. So having the mapping document to show where those things connect is really important. And so is it able to see what things are you going to sync and where are you going to sync them and how are you going to sync them. You can see in this example, we have written custom script here. This is because this is the piece of an integration that was done for a real client in custom script. So this was the custom integration. There's a second piece of this screenshot, which shows the pieces that are syncing as part of the native integration. So if you combine custom and native together to know where those things are syncing, again, this is critical for the technical resource who's going to be setting up the integration, so they're actually able to know what to connect to what, and also for troubleshooting in the future. So you need to have this laid out so that going forward, anybody who needs to come and look at the system can understand. And if you do need help with a data mapping document, please let us know. We are happy to jump in with consultation to help you understand, what do you have in your current system and how are you going to adjust that and optimize that to be prepared to sync it over to another system as well. So the third one is to determine post-integration actions. So after an integration action happens, what's going to happen then? So let's say, for example, a one deal in HubSpot syncs over to NetSuite and creates a one deal in NetSuite. Now, what happens, right? So does the finance team in NetSuite need to be made aware that a deal has been created so that they can take the next action with that, so that they can send a quote, so that they can send a contract, whatever the case is? If they need to be notified, we need to have determined before we start what all those actions are going to be, because sometimes the need for the action will have an impact on how you program the integration. Because you might have to program a property into a certain one, or you might have to add a secondary property. You might have to add automation to a deal stage in HubSpot, something like that, in order to make sure that you're ready for the post-integration action. So understanding what happens after each integration point will be critical to knowing how you set up the integration in the first place. So you're going to want to just make a list. Basically, you can do it in conjunction with your data mapping document if that works for you. If you've just got, say, an Excel sheet and not a diagram of this property to this property, you could have another column for actions. If there are no actions, it's just syncing, that's fine. If there is an action, you can note that down and make sure that your team knows that they need to program that when they're programming the sync of the data. So fourth thing is to create a testing and error handling plan. This is, of course, very, very important, because when we go into an integration, we need to be able, there's not going to be a scenario where we have a 100% perfect integration the very first time. You always have to test your integration to make sure that any small thing that is not working, any small thing that you might decide you want to happen differently after you see it happening the first time, even if it is happening correctly, maybe when you see it, you decide that that's not actually the way you want it to work. So creating a testing and error handling plan is important. There's many different ways to do this. You can go as simple as a shared spreadsheet that has entries for different types of errors that testers or like user acceptance testers can fill in with any errors that they find, and a schedule for who on the developer side is going to implement that. And if you have a developer resource, for example, say you've asked Flawless and GSI to help set up your integration, it's still, while we will have a testing plan for the technical side, it's still important that your team is involved in the testing, and that it's not just, you say, the technical admin who is going to be dealing with testing and error handling, that you have some users who are able to jump in and try the actions, see if it works for them, see if they have any errors that come up when they're doing their day-to-day process, and allow them to send that input and have that dealt with on the developer side as well. So having the plan for who those people are going to be, how you're going to log those errors, how you're going to deal with them, all of that's going to be important. And this is a plan that you can take and sort of optimize to make it your ongoing or forever optimization plan. So if you have a resource who's going to be maintaining your integration going forward, you can continue to use this sort of error handling, for them to handle errors that come up as they're maintaining and optimizing. So the next thing on the list is you'll do the integration. Now, it's hard to give specifics in the presentation about doing the actual integration, because depending on the type of integration that you're going to use, whether that's custom or native or whatever else, you're going to have it basically customized no matter what to your specific organization. And so if you are looking for deeper information or training on using the native integration feature in HubSpot, or on how to get Ops Hub and how to use Ops Hub, let us know. We're very happy to jump in, and maybe with a special offer at the end of this presentation, we can help you get started with that as well. So you've integrated systems. Here are your top 3 tips for maintaining the integration between HubSpot and NetSuite. First one is maintain your data mapping document. As long as you have your integration, you must have your data mapping document. If you're going to make a change to a HubSpot property, put that in the document. If you're going to add a new deal stage, put that in the document. You need to understand the impacts on the integration that any changes are going to have, and future-proof your development for a new developer, somebody else who's going to be using the integration in the future, so that they can have a look at that documentation and understand what's happening. We know from experience that one of the most difficult things to deal with is an integration that nobody knows how it works. Nobody knows what's happening. Things are messy. They're not, nobody has the knowledge on why it was originally set up that way. So having all of that information in your data mapping is going to make future proofing for optimizations and business changes all that much easier. The second point is to keep up with HubSpot and NetSuite updates. HubSpot is almost constantly releasing new features and tools, as well as updating existing tools. And you can see that in the product updates tab in HubSpot. So a little pro tip, if you click on your profile in your HubSpot, you can see in the little drop-down list that comes up, one of the categories is product updates. If you click on that, you're able to see all of HubSpot's product updates and new releases. So NetSuite is also often releasing all kinds of new functions. There's all kinds of things that are available for NetSuite. If you and NetSuite is so customizable that you might have a change happen to your NetSuite because of a customization that you made to your platform for some other reason that has nothing to do with the integration. But still, there's a chance that a new feature or update could impact your integration or add more possibility. So not only is there a chance that you could see something happen because of a change, like, oh, I got to fix that, but there's a chance that something you weren't able to do before that you really wanted to do becomes available to you because of a new function, a new feature, something you've added to NetSuite. So keep an eye on newsletters, whether that's from the platforms themselves or from your partners, like Flawless and GSI. We both have ongoing monthly newsletters for NetSuite and HubSpot with the updates and most important updates that are happening. So you can definitely sign up for those. And on new product releases for both systems or changes that you're making to customize your system from whatever standpoint that is, so that you can know whether that's going to impact your integration and whether it's going to help you update your integration. And the third tip is to get a staging environment. So when your integration is live, it is a risk to release new changes that impact real customer data. So for that reason, we always recommend creating a staging environment in NetSuite and in HubSpot. In HubSpot, you do this by creating a dev portal. There isn't a sort of native staging environment. There is for websites, so that's a possibility, but you can create a dev portal that is a duplicate of your live portal to test new features or major changes to the platform or the integration itself. This is going to help you to know if you need to make changes to the way that you've set things up, or if you need to, if there's something else that you can add to make it work better, or maybe you don't even want to release that change at all because of the impact that it's going to have. It is very important to have a staging or a development environment where you can do this testing, and it should be, as much as possible, an exact replica of your live environment, maybe with less data, something like that, but an exact replica of the setup that you have so that you can test things as they will be live. Okay, so I am going to open up the form to any questions that we have now. So please go ahead and submit questions via the Q&A feature at any time during the question period, and I'll get us started with a couple of questions here. The first one will be, maybe I'll direct to you, Perry, which is if you have NetSuite already and you're looking to add HubSpot, but the NetSuite platform hasn't been updated in a while, it's not well maintained, how can they start preparing for adding HubSpot to their tech stack?
Sure, great question. So my name is Perry Conteriotis, as I was introduced earlier, and I manage our delivery team, and I've been implementing accounting systems for 25 years, mainly NetSuite the last 15 years. So we run into this quite a bit. We have clients that either come to us and they're already on NetSuite and want to implement HubSpot. The first thing that we do if they feel that NetSuite hasn't been updated or hasn't been looked at, or we do a lot of rescue implementations where a client might have been implemented by NetSuite Direct, and typically those implementations don't go very well. We will come in and kind of do like an audit, NetSuite audit, and assess, where are you at, how are you using NetSuite, and, what recommendations can we make to make you the most efficient with NetSuite. So when it comes to HubSpot integration, here at GSI, we use HubSpot, we use NetSuite, they're fully integrated. We have workflows in HubSpot that, we go through different deal stages, and once the deal has been closed, we create a customer inside of NetSuite, we create a project budgets, those sorts of things inside of NetSuite. But typically, if you haven't updated NetSuite or had a bad implementation, we will kind of come in, do an audit with you, prepare a document, let you know what our recommendations are, and then work with you to get HubSpot integrated.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point overall, which is that if either of your systems have maybe had a implementation that didn't go the way that you wanted it to, or things haven't been maintained in a while, things haven't been updated, you're not sure what features you are using, which ones you're not, it's important to start with maybe a consultation or an audit to understand what you do have currently and what you might need to update in the systems themselves before you think about integrating the two systems together, or before you think about doing a large scale integration, outside of some of the standard native integration bits as well. So another question would be, how do you go about troubleshooting a HubSpot and NetSuite integration? So I know from the HubSpot side, you can look at it from the technical perspective, of course, of like go into those workflows that Perry mentioned that have the code in them that are creating customers in NetSuite, and look at that code and see if something's wrong, right? But for the most part, you're going to see a troubleshooting issue come up when a problem happens. So when a customer says, hey, this isn't working, I can't get this, or you don't have my information, why not? Or you're looking at your reporting and it's not correct, something's not there, things aren't crossing as they should. To find the moment where that happened is the most important thing, rather than blindly looking through the code. So to understand, okay, here is this customer reported this issue at this time. They said that their data, I didn't know their data when I should have. So why didn't I have that information? Well, it looks like the sync happened then, but this, and this didn't sync over for these reasons. And that's when you can go look at that code, whether whichever side of the integration it's on, and see where the technical error might have occurred. So that's where some things like the data mapping, the lifecycle stage mapping, the buyer journey mapping, all of that comes into play, because you can look at where the sync was supposed to happen and understand perhaps why it didn't. That makes sense. So final question before we get into our special offer is going to be, if you have the native integration set up, I guess we have another question. 2 questions before we jump into the offer. If you have the native integration set up already, what are you going to do if it's not working for you? And we talked a little bit about moving into either middleware or a custom integration. We would want to take a look at the system that you have, understand what you're trying to do to help make a decision on what's the best option for your company. So we could do an audit of either system, an audit of the integration itself, and see, okay, what are the points that are missing? Why are they missing? And is it going to be fixed by a middleware that's going to allow you to maintain on your own? Or are you in need of something more custom where you're going to need a developer to help you set that up? Our next question is, we use both HubSpot and NetSuite when it seems like NetSuite seems to be able to handle the CRM. We're married to NetSuite. I wonder if it's worth it to have another program like HubSpot involved. The answer
I can take this one, Erica, if you want.
Go for it.
Yeah, so that question, absolutely correct. NetSuite does have a full CRM capabilities. And we do move a lot of people off of like Salesforce.com. We've actually moved people off of HubSpot to NetSuite CRM. And it's not that Salesforce or HubSpot or Dynamics CRM aren't good solutions. It's just that most companies who use those solutions were using like 5% of the capabilities of Salesforce.com or Dynamics CRM or something like that, or even HubSpot. So yes, NetSuite from a standpoint of tracking leads, prospects, opportunities, works really well. Now, when it comes to marketing and drip campaigns, email campaigns, and the flexibility of a true CRM, NetSuite does have some drawbacks. So that is why companies will implement HubSpot and integrate it to NetSuite. Part of the NetSuite CRM also is, support cases, the forms that you can attach to your website for lead forms. You can still use some of those things within NetSuite, but most of our clients who go to HubSpot and not CRM, it's the email campaigns, the flexibility of HubSpot, drip campaigns, marketing, and that sort of thing that NetSuite is lacking in some of those areas.
Yeah, and we see a lot of people come with user friendliness as well as, they want a very like streamlined, you have to do it this process. HubSpot as a CRM sales tool, marketing tool, does have some like simpler workflows for a team to use. And we often see, but yeah, for the main part, like Perry said, using HubSpot as your CRM for marketing and for what I would call like sales tools or early sales is the reason why most teams stick to it, not necessarily just for like a database of contacts, because NetSuite does handle all of that, but having those sort of advanced sales and marketing tools, all of your emails, all your drip campaigns, all your workflows, your whole website can be on there, blogs, and then also in your sales tools, like your automated sequences, all of your like call email tracking integrations to Outlook to auto track emails, the app, things like that are the reasons why we see most people wanting to use both systems.
I will add one more thing too. NetSuite, you do have to buy a full user license. So user licenses today are $99 a month. Starting June 1st are $120 a month minus any discounts you might have with Oracle NetSuite. So if you have 10 salespeople, you have to have a full user licenses for the salespeople to log in NetSuite. And that's something that HubSpot also does very well. They don't charge by user license. And I don't know how they charge for HubSpot, but it's more affordable typically when you have a larger sales team as well.
Yeah. You can have unpaid sales seats which have like most of the functionality that most sales teams need. You can get additional paid sales seats if you need those for some additional functionality, but typically more affordable than for really big teams than the individual NetSuite licenses.